The net is a dangerous place. Kai barely survived his encounter with the rogue AI calling itself the God in the Machine in the dark net. Promoted to level 2 with no time to recover, he has gained access to all Helltek has to offer. Life on the campus could be perfect, except that Cyber Squad is one of the most high-risk jobs in the world. If the murderous AI wasn't bad enough, the hackers who attacked TSOTA are up to no good, and a traitor within Cyber Squad is helping them. Nothing and no one or what they seem, not even Alice, Kai's dream girl, who's way more mysterious than he would have thought. Kai soon finds himself in the center of a massive conspiracy. Luckily, his team members have his back, but will it be enough to beat the forces as powerful as they are malicious? The LitRPG adventure continues in Cyber Squad Level 2, written by A.K. Mossycat, narrated by Zachary Johnson. Hello, and welcome back to the next review of the next book, Cyber Squad Level 2. As I do at the beginning, if you have not, please consider checking out the previous review. And I can already tell you, if you have not checked out these books yet, and you are a fan of sci-fi and cyberpunk, this is definitely a book series you're going to want to check out. With that said, let's just go ahead and jump right into the review. So, starting with the cover and title. And for the cover and title, I'm going to give this 5 stars. Now, I do still have a slight problem with the fact that it's called Level 2. And I know I said in my previous review, I was going to address why I thought calling it Level 1 was sort of a problem. I will address that when I get to the story portion of this book. I promise. But I still have that same issue. But other than that, it's still called Cyber Squad, which works perfectly with the book. Level 2 seems to be generally good. If I had to pick between, there's some slight variations in the covers. Honestly, I think the audiobook cover is the best. It's the brightest. It's got the most flair. It's got the most purple. You know, that purple draws your eye to it. The paperback is kind of missing and toned way down from that. So the hardback cover is kind of the same. It's got a little bit more pink, but it's still kind of a tone down. On the audiobook, it's really bright, really clear, and I love it. I wish she could have gotten that same effect for the paperback and hardcovers. But yeah, I love the fact that the narrator's name is down near her name. So it deserves its 5 stars. Moving on to the narration. the narration, once again, was perfect, and I'm going to give this 5 stars. And I really noticed, I mean, it was present in the last one, where the narrator actually was not really using special effects, but using different filters for different things. For example, when characters were talking to the main character over a radio, the narrator made his voice sound like he was speaking through a radio. When people were using like encryptions to have communications, the voice was filtered where you could still understand what he was saying, but the tone of the person speaking was going all over the place and had a slight digital effect to it. There was a little slight bit of a problem where I don't know what it was exactly. Maybe it was because I was using headphones, but you could sometimes, after a sentence was finished, hear an echo, like for the briefest second. I almost thought it was maybe an ARG that I was discovering. Like, if you go through it and you listen hard enough, that you're gonna, pick up clues or something for some hidden Easter egg. But yeah, no, this narrator once again did a perfect job, so definitely worth the 5 stars here. Now moving on to the writing. And you know what? In fact, instead of putting this with story, I think I'll put this with the writing. Because I'm going to give the writing 5 stars. But, okay, so the problem I have with the title of what I'm going to guess at this point is going to be every book in this series is, I think I know what the author's going for here, which is there are 10 levels that the character can reach to reach the top level, which is level 10. And if that's true, that means we should get 10 books. Because it seems that each book is this main character moving up a level. Now, in the first book, suddenly going from level 1 to level 2 by the end of the book wasn't that much of a stretch. In book 2, it really wasn't that big of a stretch, but even the characters were starting to point out how quickly he was advancing. And how, the guy was giving points away like candy. I don't want to say who, but let's just say the main character was getting points left and right, sometimes for not doing anything at all, which I'm not sure if that's going to play a role later, because on one side of the coin, okay, he does some things that clearly he deserves it. He clearly is a good person who is not trying to get these points. They're just being given to him. But at the same time, that could make some other people very close to him. It's like, I know I keep talking about Harry Potter a lot, and I'm really sorry, but it is a series that most readers are familiar with. It's like Ron and Harry. Harry did not want to enter the Goblet of Fire, but just the fact that he was admitted into the Goblet of Fire, into the Triwizard Tournament, Ron got pissed off because everything always happens to Harry, and he's always the reason why, these good things are happening to him and, Gryffindor, and it's like, he's outshined by his best friend. And you can kind of tell in that moment that he's getting tired of it. Yeah, he's still Harry's friend, and by the end of the book, he comes around, but there is that moment, like, why does he get everything? It's never actually said, it's hinted at, but it's hinted at quite a few times. And I feel like the same could go here, especially if each book the character is going to be going up in level. Now, the author, in all fairness, could surprise us. And we could get, let's say, in, level 3 is a 2-part book. Level 4 is a 3-part book. Because maybe it takes him a little longer to get through level 3 or to get through level 4. Honestly, the writer could do that. But then you run into the major issue. If it's level 3, part 1, then there's going to be a level 3, part 2. And that just starts to sound a little funny at that point. And that was my issue. If every book is going to be called level, then you already know in advance, by the next book, he's going to be up to level 4. So, that's my issue with the title. And I'm going to put that with the writing, because it's kind of a foretelling, and it's kind of like how much... okay, granted, you can give it to him early on, but later on, when things are supposed to be at its most challenging, either time has to slow down, meaning more time has to pass, and the book's got to get longer and longer and longer, which is great, don't get me wrong, that is something she could do, but if it's going by too fast, it's like, how long do you expect the readers to buy this? How long can we be expected to just say, okay, yeah, he went up another level. Everybody else didn't, but, even if he brings his team along, it's like, okay, now it's just getting ridiculous. If you read the books, you'll understand, and I think maybe you'll come to the same conclusion, but let's just move on now to the story. And for the story, I'm going to give this 5 stars. So, if you remember what I just said previously, if I had to nitpick about the story, again, that previous thing plays a major part in my issue with the story, and that is, things are just happening too fast. Granted, yeah, you get, like, something that comes along and says, oh, well, he stayed in a hospital for 3 months, But that's at the beginning of the book. And the only other issue I really have with the story is, even though I really like it, it's really great. It reminds me of quite a few things, actually. Like I said in my previous review, it really heavily reminded me of, like, Ready Player One. Part of this is also reminding me now of, like, The Matrix meets It, which is fine. I love those. I love being able to feel that without feeling like I'm hearing the same story. When I say it feels like It, if you've ever read the book of It, not the movies. Forget the movies. The movies are nothing compared to the books. Or the book. It's such a big book. I have it on my iPod, and it's a 4-part thing from a disc form where it's like the files were split up into 4, and they're still so freaking long. But yeah, if you listen to the book of It, it's the way it is talked about, the way it is represented. The clown doesn't even make a big appearance in the books. It's other things in the books, which is almost as scary. I mean, not really scary. I've never really found horror books to be scary. But yeah, it definitely reminds me a lot of It, and it's starting to somewhat remind me of The Matrix too, as well as a lot of Ready Player One, which I love. And I don't feel like I'm being told the exact same story from those things. There are a lot of mysteries. I was a little slightly minuscule disappointment. This book really didn't answer anything. You didn't really, I mean, unless I missed something, you really don't get any conclusive answers. Just what he saw from book 1 was real, and only a couple people know about it. That's it. That's about the only answer you really get. The hacker that we ran into in book 1 didn't come back. At least not that we saw. He goes through some of the same things over again. Which, that's kind of my other nitpick. He runs into a problem, they solve it, and somebody either almost dies or somebody gets injured. And then the very next time he goes back in, he's getting attacked again. I think the author could benefit, and this is just maybe my own my own thoughts, but the author could maybe benefit from not being so hard on the character. Like, he should be able to do his job without running into major events. And yeah, that's all I can say cryptically without flat out talking about parts of the book. But yeah, it just feels like he's getting attacked too often. Whoever this is, whatever's going on, they are heavily focused on this character, and I'm sorry, he should not be surviving. Like, if he makes it to the 10th book, that would be amazing, as much as he's getting attacked right now. There should have been some reprieve, I think, being that we're only at the 2nd book. Maybe that'll happen with the 3rd book. Maybe the 3rd book will be a little bit more laid back and there'll only be like one major attack. But I mean, there is an attack that is like about to freaking kill the main character. And you have basically people come in, save him at the last moment. And I just felt like it could have waited. You could have built up to it. But that's my own personal thoughts. Now moving into the characters. Once again, I'm going to give characters 5 stars. All the characters are great. Any of the new characters that we met, I loved. I am very hopeful about the future of certain characters. It looks like we might lose one character or maybe two, possibly at the beginning of the next book. I'm a little concerned that this character, Josh, will decide to leave after the events of the end of book 2, because he was already thinking that, and then they got attacked, and he had already been injured once before. So I was thinking maybe that at the beginning of book 3, he's going to resign and walk away and say, you know what? This job was a little easy before this dude came along, but either I get switched to another team or actually I'm just out. One of those two might happen. I don't think he's going to be sticking around. If he does, I'd be shocked. Yeah, so the only other thing I have to say about characters is the Australian character. I'm spacing on the name right now. But it's Kai's best friend from the outside game, TSOTA, and he's from Australia. I actually really like this character, and I want to see this character somehow brought in on Kai's team to work with him in real life. So I'm kind of hoping that somewhere in the future that maybe Kai uses his leverage of being this new rock star at this company to basically get his friend hired on, brought straight in, and instantly bumped up to level 2. So he can live there and work with Kai. Maybe Kai, puts in a good word and says, look, hey, this guy here, he's one of the best gamers that I've ever worked with. Maybe it could even be a replacement for Josh. Maybe Josh decides he's had enough, he's leaving, and Kai, goes to the main head dude and says, hey, I have a friend that would be interested in taking the job, who I trust. That would be awesome to see. I would love to see him and then have him actually meet some of the characters that he's been meeting from the Cyber Squad. It would just definitely be interesting to see that. So, yep. Alright, now moving on to extras. Sadly, there was no extras this time. I was a little disappointed. I was so looking forward to hearing the same extra that I got in the last book. I was looking forward to that sneak preview chapter. I don't think last time I said, it was the first full chapter. I don't think she should go the route of a full chapter, but at least like maybe the first 5 pages. Or 5 pages of a really good section that isn't a big spoiler. That would be something awesome she could continue on doing. She is the only writer who ever put in a sneak peek in the audiobook. So I'm kind of hoping she does that with book 3, which is coming out in September, she said. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But let's move on to the final score. And for the final score, I have to give this a 10 out of 10. Again, this was perfect. It was a great continuation. It kept my interest. I'm definitely going to look forward to listening to it again right before book 3 comes out. I'm hoping that she'll definitely choose me as one of her first reviewers to review book 3. And I'm really excited, for where the story could go. like I've said in this review, there's just so many possibilities. And that is what's great about this, is it's so many possibilities. I have no clue what she's going to do. I do hope that ultimately she does try to slow down the attacks. Otherwise, you kind of end up with a problem like 24. Only here it's like 24 cranked up to 11. And what I mean by that is Jack Bauer goes through so much in the television series of 24. And you start to wonder, how can this guy possibly, after everything he's gone through, put up with it and not have been killed already? Granted, in 24, the season, sometimes it's 6 months later. Sometimes it's 2 years later. Sometimes it's, months later. But it's only one day out of the year, out of that period in his life. So, yeah. I really hope she does slow it down a little. I don't know how she can do it, but that's the only issue I really have. Too much is happening too fast, and if it keeps going at the rate it's going, this dude's gonna freaking lose his mind before he reaches the end where he has to battle the big boss. So, a 10 out of 10. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you like fantasy, if you like sci-fi, if you like cyberpunk, definitely consider checking out Cyber Squad Level 2 and Cyber Squad Level 1. It is a great that it's kind of like my book series. I know I do this in every episode, but this is one thing where this author and I feel a real connection to this author because she is a lot like me. I have a series that is primarily fantasy. Her series is primarily sci-fi. And yet, both of us dip our toes into other genres. Cyber Squad Level 2 dips its toe into into horror. But the entire Cyber Squad thing can dip its toe into any genre it wants. Primarily, it does dip its toe into fantasy as the characters go into fantasy games. It can dip its toes into whatever the creator wants it to do. And it's also kind of a, romance drama. The main character has multiple people interested in him. So, I love this series. Definitely, if you have not, and if you watch this review, I don't know why you would watch a review if you haven't read the series, but if you haven't, definitely go check it out. It's worth your time. It's definitely worth your money. And if you do enjoy this, and I gave you a really good recommendation, why not consider checking out my series, The Guardian of Light? It's also available on Amazon Audible, just like Cyber Squad. So I want to thank you all so much for watching. And I will talk to you all next time. Bye.